Good evening and welcome to the May 4th, 2026 meeting of the Prior Lake Planning Commission. If you would please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Where's my agenda? Yeah, I didn't get one. Thank you. We have an almost full house this evening. We're glad to see all of you out here for two important items that do have an impact on the future state of our community. So we're glad to have you here. Right now, we will move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any comments, additions, or deletions to any item on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion carries. The next agenda item will be the approval of the April 6th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries as well. Before we move into our public hearings, we want to officially welcome Shelley Schmokel, Commissioner Schmokel, who will be a voting member. All of us will be voting, but as you know, several of us are designated as alternates. And so this evening, Commissioner Schmokel will not be an alternate. She will be a full-fledged planning commissioner. So I just wanted to make that declaration clear for everyone. Staff, any comments?
None, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will turn it over to staff. This is the first of our public hearings. This is PDEV 26-000010, Duluth Avenue Southeast, to combine preliminary and final plat and variance. So just a quick recount of how the public hearings will proceed tonight. The staff will present its report on the request or issue at hand, and planning commissioners will have an opportunity to pose questions about the staff report. Next, the applicant, if there is one, will have an opportunity to address the commission, and commissioners, all of us, will have an opportunity to respond to the applicant with comments or questions. Following that presentation, I will open the floor for public comment, and we'll invite anyone from the viewing audience to address the commission. If you wish to address the commission, we'd ask that you please approach the podium, press the red button to turn on the microphone, and then clearly state your name and address for the official record. So everyone will have a chance to speak. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 to 7 minutes in length, and that you make concise statements of fact pertaining to the specific application. This meeting will be the official public hearing and your primary opportunity to be heard on the matter. The City Council has no obligation to accept further public comment, and in many cases they do not. So please don't hesitate to speak tonight on either of these public hearings. And with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair Fleming, members of the Planning Commission, good evening. The first item is a request from Prior Lake Revival, LLC, looking for approval of a combined preliminary and final plat and a variance. The variance is from our minimum 0.5 floor area ratio requirement, which we have in the town center district, and the purpose would be to construct a commercial building. So they are proposing development on 2 lots that are currently unplatted meets and bounds parcels, so a lot combination and a subdivision is required. And this, very similar to request to this one, was heard by the Planning Commission in 2023. So the Planning Commission at that time approved a variance to a 0.25 floor area ratio. The City Council approved a preliminary plat, but that development did not move forward at that time for stormwater reasons, which we'll get into, and other items. So both of those previously approved applications have expired. So there's a 12-month window where if you don't move forward with your project within 12 months, they automatically terminate. The property in question is located south of County Road 21, Eagle Creek Avenue, between West Avenue and Duluth. So it's the property immediately west of the existing Prior Lake Revival building at the corner of Duluth and 21. The entire parcel is about 3 3/4 acres. What the developer is proposing is to create Lot 1 in the blue. This would be the developable parcel. These two lots would be combined into Lot 1, Block 1. That's just over 1 acre. They would create an outlot, Outlot A, which is about 2.5 acres. This would be reserved for future development. Now, this is a large parcel of land, but there are some soil issues on the site, so it's not 2.4 of buildable area, but there is definitely buildable area on the property. The plat also includes a 0.3 acre right-of-way dedication to Scott County for County Road 21. Here's a few of the elevations of the building. The one on the top of the screen is the south elevation, so this would be the view if you're looking at it from the parking lot facing County Road 21. The image on the bottom of your screen is the north elevation, so the view as you're driving by on County Road 21. Very similar building heights, materials, architectural enhancements that exist on the existing Prior Lake Revival building. Here are the images from the east. So if you're coming over the wagon bridge towards the building is at the top, and then the west elevation is shown at the bottom. And then this slide shows their existing building. We did get a question based on the public hearing notice about this being a 1- or 2-story building, which created a little bit of confusion. So we view this as a 1-story building. Only the first floor of this building is going to be occupied. Just like the existing building has these upper architectural enhancements, this is used for storage. You access it with a ladder, and I believe there's some mechanical equipment that are accessible from that area too. The first building, this upper level is not occupied, and in the second building, this upper level will not be occupied with tenant space. Building heights, both the first phase building and the second phase building are around 28 feet. I believe this one is a little bit shorter than the existing building. At the high point, most of the building wall will be around that 19-foot mark. So the property is zoned Town Center, which is our downtown district. The primary access to this building would be through the internal parking lot through an access agreement. Both properties are under the same ownership. There would be an option in the future, but they're not connecting right now to West Avenue. So if that outlot proposal comes in for development in the future, they may want to access off West Avenue. They may want to access internally off of this parking lot. Their landscaping plan complies with city code, identifies a good number of overstory trees and shrubbery. Sanitary sewer and water service are available within the parking lot, and they would be extended to serve this building as well. And then grading and stormwater plan. They do have a stormwater drainage basin on Outlot A that we'll review shortly here that does meet the city's water quality and runoff requirements. Now, one of the reasons there was a delay in the project was to evaluate better, we'll call them better stormwater options. So this is the plan that was approved in 2023. There was a stormwater basin installed, or to be installed, at the northwest corner of the building. But you can see from this aerial or the conceptual image, the retaining walls provided some access and maintenance issues, as well as having a stormwater pond that close to the building's foundation. So at that time, the property owner did not own the lots to the west. After this approval, they were able to acquire those properties, which gave them more options to meet their stormwater requirements. So what they're proposing, instead of that pond at the northwest corner of the building, is they're going to have a larger pond on Outlot A. This is a private stormwater pond, not a City of Prior Lake pond. It'll be maintained privately. This pond is also oversized to account for some or all of potential stormwater needs on Outlot A. So this would be covered with a private access and maintenance agreement between the two parcels. Now into the variance, city code identifies a minimum floor area ratio in our downtown. And the idea of that is to maximize the land area with structures, so we don't have small buildings on big lots because our downtown footprint is so small. So the floor area ratio is the total floor area of a building, including all floors, divided by the lot area. In this case, the property lot area is slightly over 1 acre at 46,000 square feet, but the building is only going to cover approximately 11,000 square feet. So that's a 0.23 floor area ratio, where our city code requires a 0.5 in the town center. So unlike a lot of variances the Planning Commission sees, this variance request is to build a smaller building than our city code requires. So if they went multiple stories, the maximum height in the town center is 55 feet. So they could go, 2 stories to meet that floor area ratio requirement, or they could build a wider building. But the impact then is they lose valuable parking, which they need for their employees and customers of the business. So the variance criteria identified in our city code, city staff supports this request for variance. Staff feels the granting of the variance is in harmony with the purposes of the city code. The building will not be taller than allowed by city code or closer to property lines than allowed by city code. The proposed construction is an allowable use. So office buildings are a permitted use in the town center district, so it is consistent with our comprehensive land use plan. The project will enhance the aesthetic character of the city. The building design will be a nice looking building, just like its partner building, and it works well between the adjacent residential and commercial businesses as a nice gateway into downtown Prior Lake. And also that this is a unique property, so it is zoned town center. Almost all of our town center are kind of these core blocks of downtown, Main Avenue, Dakota, Pleasant, Colorado, where this building is out on 21. So there is not on-street parking available, or there is not city municipal parking lots available to serve the business out there like there is in the rest of the downtown core. So we feel a variance to allow for additional parking in a smaller building is warranted. So our recommendation for the Planning Commission is to hold a public hearing, and we would be looking for a motion in a second to recommend City Council approval of the plat and a motion related to the variance. So 2 motions ultimately at the end of the public hearing. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I don't have any questions just yet, but I will invite my fellow planning commissioners to pose any questions at this time. Commissioner Rook, any questions for staff?
All access is intended to be from Duluth Avenue for parking related items?
Correct, Commissioner. Yep, all access will come through the existing parking lot of the Phase 1 building into the parking lot of the Phase 2 building.
Okay, great. No more questions.
Commissioner Finstein-Moffett.
With the stormwater ponding going on that west lot, there would normally be a requirement for some sort of agreement between those parcels. Is that correct? To maintain and use that?
That is correct, Commissioner. Since the outlot parcel will be taking water from the Phase 2 building parcel, there needs to be an access easement in place so that that water flow is guaranteed throughout time.
Is there any concern with that ponding going in? You mentioned it is developable still. Is there any concern with that pond being there to maintain that use of that property, future development anyway?
Yep, thank you for the question, Commissioner. This area of the site, so off of West Avenue, the most developable land is located back here. Previous developments have looked into projects on this site, and there was anywhere from 30 to 40 feet of removal and export of soil. So the soil condition next to 21 isn't ideal. So it's a good site for a pond, but it would not be a great site for a building. And then again, this pond is being oversized to hopefully meet the stormwater requirements of whatever development is proposed down the road on the outlot parcel.
I do remember the previous iteration. I seem to remember there was some comment about sidewalk access. Is there typically a concern or need to have some sort of access to the public path that's along 21?
That would have to be evaluated with Scott County. We've actually run into that on Chula's, for example. The county did not want a connection from the business to the trail in that case. So we would, if one were desired by the building owner, we would have to work with Scott County to see if that would be possible.
No other questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Nicholson.
Question, Casey, you had mentioned that there was a maintenance agreement on the runoff pond, correct?
There will be, yes. There's
There will
one
be.
in place currently.
And does that extend to the storage bin as well? I believe there was a storage bin, as I looked in the documents, there was for the water, for the runoff, outside of the runoff pond, or did I misunderstand that? No. Or a basin, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word.
Okay, yes. So the water will drain, the stormwater will drain from the development site into this pond, where it'll be retained and treated prior to being discharged into the existing wetland pond area at the corner into the county's stormwater drainage system.
Okay, I thought I had seen in the documents that there was a storage basin for the water.
Correct, and that will be included in the access
Okay.
agreement.
Okay. And then associated to that, so I also read that sanitary and water mains are being extended from the private lot, and I'm just curious, who owns and maintains those connections?
So they are private utility extensions. So this image maybe isn't the best, but on the right-hand side of the screen is the existing building that is in place currently. This building is proposed, so there are sewer and water that are private services under the parking lot to this point, and then they will get extended through this lot to serve the new building.
Okay. And then last question, in thinking about the proposed floor area ratio is less than half of what's required. So how would the commission, moving forward, how would the commission think about consistency in these types of requests, whether they should be approved or not?
Good question, Commissioner. So I think in this case, if I can find an aerial, looking at this site, we don't want to push any of this traffic onto the local residential streets. The rest of the downtown, there are municipal parking lots and on-street parking available. This area doesn't have any. This is really the only area of our town center that doesn't have great parking in close proximity. So my assumption would be if we get a development proposal for Outlot A, they would have a similar floor area ratio request. But I don't know anywhere else in the downtown where we would expect that.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Commissioner Schmokel.
Yeah, thank you. How will heavy construction and materials enter that site? Will it be through Duluth, or are we looking at the western side, and how would that work?
Yep, so construction equipment most likely would access the site, the heavy equipment from West Avenue. There may be, once they get further along into the project, and some of the trades, the plumbers and electricians that have pickup trucks and vans may access through the parking, but I believe the property owner and developer wants all of that construction equipment to access off of West Avenue.
Would that mean Racine, or would it be only on their property?
That would be on their property.
Okay. Second question I have is kind of regarding parking. I can understand it's further away. We wouldn't want to see a lot of cars parked on the residential areas. I looked through the code, and it's my understanding, I think you clarified, there's nothing that requires these buildings in this area to have a certain ratio of parking spots for these office buildings. It's really just on their best judgment or sound judgment to have ample storage parking. Is that right?
That's correct, Commissioner. So in our downtown or town center district, because there's municipal parking and off-street parking or on-street parking available, there is no parking requirement for any businesses downtown other than if you're going to do multifamily residential, then there's a requirement of 2 stalls per unit. But yeah, this development could come in with a quite large building with no parking stalls proposed, and that would meet our code requirements.
Yeah, but we're feeling good about it because it's the same developer, and presumably the Revival 1 building has had ample parking lot?
Yep,
Fair use?
the Revival 1 building is a little bit larger than the building that's proposed. It's probably 1,500 or so square feet larger. That building provided 52 parking stalls, and they do get tight at times with the number of tenants in there. This building is a little bit smaller than that at just under 11,000 square feet, and I believe they're providing 50 stalls for this as well.
That takes care of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yurko?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First question, is Racine a city street?
Yes,
And so that provides access to several homes that are there as well?
Racine provides access just to this one
The far one?
backlot home, yep.
Okay. And so with the construction access coming through there, there's no concerns about access for that homeowner?
No, the access will be maintained for the property owner
Okay.
through construction, yep.
And then any concerns with West Avenue being an uncontrolled intersection on what is 21 and construction traffic and vehicles?
Not with construction traffic. I think when we get to the point down the road of a development being proposed, that intersection would be looked at to see how it functions currently and whatever the proposed development is, what type of traffic that would generate. But just with construction traffic, it'll be short-term and sporadic, so.
Okay. I've just seen a lot of dicey left-hand turns being made there, and
Yep.
big trucks make me concerned for visibility at that intersection. Question on the parking lot that's proposed. Is the parking lot large enough to provide turnaround access for emergency vehicles, garbage trucks, the like?
Yes.
Okay. And then a couple of questions on the stormwater plan. Thank you for pulling that up. The grade at the south edge of the site, what is the difference in grade from the south edge to the street on 21?
From the very south edge
Yep.
or the south of the pond?
Nope, the south edge of the site, right there, back there.
I don't know offhand. There was with the Phase 1 building, there was a large retaining wall installed through this property as well. So the grade at the top of the retaining wall and the base, I don't know offhand what that is.
Okay, it's significant, right?
Well, the wall is in place already.
Yeah, will
Yeah.
it be continuing for
No.
retaining the rest of the topography that I see there?
I believe the wall, whoops, wrong screen, sorry.
I'm just concerned about runoff and the steep grade that's there and what's being done to retain that property and stabilize that earth.
Yep, so the wall, I believe, is built to the western edge of the proposed building property, so I don't believe there will be any more wall construction related to this project.
Okay. So that earth is all stable that I see in the left corner of the site that they own right now? Yes, right there.
Site,
Yeah.
the
It's
wall
all
would
secure.
come, I believe, to this point. So I don't believe anything was done in the
Okay.
area that you're asking about. That would be Outlot A looked
Okay.
at in the future.
All right. I'm assuming they've done a stormwater plan that's looking at the rate of water running and everything else
Yes.
to meet that. All right. That is it. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just have a couple of easy ones, I think. The FAR, the floor area ratio of 0.23 is, just thinking in the extreme, are there any possibilities for any sort of adverse impacts?
I don't believe so, Commissioner. The impact would be, the city would likely lose an ability if it was the city's goal to have a 2-story building here or a larger square footage building. once this building is constructed, it's going to be there for a very long time. So that's a potential impact. But the fact that the city can't provide parking in this area at this time
Okay, great.
stands tough.
That's what I thought you would say, but I wanted to get that on the record. So, and then what is the proposed timeline for full build-out?
They would be looking to start construction this spring, summer, and moving along, hopefully towards the end of the year to be substantially complete.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions. Are there any other lingering questions from planning commissioners? One, go ahead, Commissioner Fenstermacher.
You mentioned Racine as a public street. Is there a need to have some sort of easement or right-of-way for that street on that lot?
There is not for Racine if it's a public street. If there's this development is not going to connect to West Avenue other than construction traffic. But if Outlot A were to come in for a development proposal in the future, then it would be looked at either Racine could potentially be vacated if another development provided alternate access, or maybe Racine is turned into a more standard urban street to provide access to the development area. But access to that single-family property will remain. The city cannot remove that access.
Is Racine on Outlot A right now?
Racine is, the street itself may be, but the platted right-of-way is not.
Okay.
All right, thank you, commissioners. At this time, I'd like to, one more question, sure.
Sorry. Racine is gravel right now, is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a plan to pave that?
There's not.
Okay, we wouldn't require anything at this time. I know we've been trying to do away with gravel.
Yeah, we would not require anything at this time, and it would only be if that access were to be intensified in the future, if more properties were going to utilize it, then we would require paving and curb and stormwater and all of that.
Thank you.
I want to follow up on that because that's a really great question. Do we have any sense of what that would cost the city?
I wouldn't want to guess. When you get into stormwater, it depends what the stormwater system is like in West Avenue. Because I mean, you could just pave it for relatively inexpensively, but normally when the city does it, it would be built to a city standard urban street, which would be at a minimum 28 feet curb to curb with stormwater and catch basins and manholes and sewer and water infrastructure.
It would be interesting to know or explore, and I'm not asking or directing staff to consider this, but it would be interesting to know what the relative costs would be now versus in the future. So
They're less now.
okay. It's on the record. Yeah, on the record. Okay. We can reserve that for a future conversation. All right, at this time, first, thank you, commissioners, for your very, very good insights and questions and curiosity. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to present questions, thoughts, any highlights of the plan to the Planning Commission. There's a red button that will turn on your microphone, I believe. And then please state your name and address for the record.
I see a green button. Is it on already? I think it's on already. Okay. My name is Katie Kurogi, and I'm with Karkala Construction. I've been working with the developers and the designers on this project and the engineers to get it to this point. My plan is to continue working with them through the construction process. And then also potentially work with two of the tenants that are going into the building. So I'm very involved on the construction end. I apologize, our architect and engineer could not be here tonight, but they both assured me that they've been in touch with Paul and Casey to get them answers that they had prior to this. Couple items that I was just taking notes on. Well, you brought up the parking piece. Currently, right now, we have two potential dental specialists going in there that don't necessarily require a ton of parking, but there is another option that we're looking at for another dental professional that could potentially require more parking down the road. So I would hesitate or I would argue, I guess, to not take away parking at this time with it being a medical professional building, quote unquote, or small medical, between staff and patients. It can really occupy a lot of the parking space. I was asking this evening if they've had problems with Revival 1, and he said just at times it can get pretty full. So I would hesitate to take away more parking for a larger building, because I think the implications would be people looking for on-street parking somewhere outside of there. The other piece that I know you brought up were the construction materials access. We discussed it today in our office, and we were planning to use that Racine Street entrance point, leaving everything on Outlot A as they own it, so we should be able to park there. We typically provide some sort of fencing or structural, some sort of fencing around the site to keep people off the construction site during construction, so our trucks and everything would be parked within that. And then you also had brought up the construction schedule. We are trying to, as efficiently as possible, get building permits applied for. So as soon as we have approval from you all in the city council, our hope is that building permit would be not far beyond that, and we would plan to start as soon as possible, hoping for June. And then all things considered with the weather, I would say a building structure of this size, we normally are in that 7 to 9 month range, I guess, just depending on schedule with weather. It's the one thing I can't really control. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The architect is planning to finish up drawings fairly quickly. He was just waiting on any city comments for any changes.
Great, thank you. Planning Commissioner comments? Commissioner Nicholson? Any questions for the applicant? Any questions? Any questions? Thank you. Right now, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second at 6:33 p.m. to commence the public hearing. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of opening the public hearing at 6:33 p.m., please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries and the public hearing is open. So if there are members in the viewing audience that would like to approach the podium and pose questions for staff or offer comments for the Planning Commission's consideration, please feel free to do so. The microphone should be on. If it's not, you can just press the button until it turns green. And then please do provide us with your name and address.
Is it on?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. I'm Lynn Carlson from 4411 Dakota Street, right opposite the aspect of the building that will be the two-story part. I don't see that on here, but that's what I saw when I looked up on the builder's website. It's a full two-story, 28-foot-high commercial two-story building. That's not shown here. I talked to Casey earlier today. I talked to Paul last week. Paul said he would be here. He's the one that some of the neighbors got the letter, not all of us did. But the letter came from Paul, and so that's who I talked to a week ago, well, last Tuesday. He said that if any aspect of this appeared to be a two-story building, it would be dead in the water. Apparently that's not the case, although it's not being shown here. Casey today earlier said that it's all a facade. I don't know why you would spend all that money to build a two-story building as a facade. somebody needs to explain that to me. Unless the plan is to, in the future, use it, and I don't know. I just don't know. Paul had said he would be here tonight, and he would be able to answer any questions, but he's on vacation this week. So I emailed other people, did not get a response. So I'm doing something I never do. I never speak in public. But I mean, Paul and I had even discussed right down to how much light could come from the building. He said no more than the illumination of one candle, one incandescent candle. Anything more than that would be shut down. He said 2-story building, again, his words, would be dead in the water. In terms of anything flowing into what the neighborhood calls the Frog Pond, the pond on the corner on West and 21, that the county is kind of in charge of, Paul told me that they had said that was completely off limits. They were not giving up any rights to anything going into the Frog Pond. So I've heard a few things here tonight that don't line up with the discussion I had with Paul. And we talked for half an hour, very cordial, and he seemed very understanding. And again, I'm at a loss, but I'm here. And somebody made a comment earlier, and I don't have a pencil, I wasn't making notes, but there was a comment about that there's no significant trees there. At one time, that was forested. That was heavily treed. Maybe, so that's why Paul said there was only a requirement for 23 trees to be put there, but that it would have to be upscale trees, not your, standard lot, 3-foot starter things, but actual decent trees to try to recoup what was there at one time. I don't expect any answers right now, but at least I had to say something. I'm going to be looking at that every day. I'm right opposite that 2-story facade. It makes no sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So I heard a few things, and fellow commissioners, maybe you heard more, but I heard, and Casey and staff, I know Paul is not here tonight, but the facade, so I'm hearing the question as why would we invest in so much facade? And then there's a question about the penetration of light, impacts of that, and then tree sizes. So I heard at least those three. Did other commissioners hear any other items in addition to those three?
Yeah, I heard about water going into Frog Pond, which I take to be the existing body of water that's been there for many decades, actually.
Okay, so water. No one else? Okay, Casey, you want to give it a shot? And I know Paul is not here, and I don't expect you to recall verbatim what his conversation with the resident may have been or may not have been, but
Yep.
I'll just let you go ahead and maybe address those 4 items.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was not part of that conversation with Paul, but here's the photo of the existing building. So this is 28 feet, the same height as they're proposing at the tallest point on the new building. This is not occupied. This is 34 feet to the point. This is not occupied. If they wanted to construct a 2-story building, they can. Our city code would allow that. That would actually reduce their variance request if they did go up a 2nd story. So again, they're getting a variance to build a smaller building than we are required by our city code. So they're not proposing. I did confirm with the developer again today. There will not be tenants up there, but short of seeing the building built. I can't go beyond that. As far as the lighting, that's part of our review for commercial buildings. There will be an illumination plan submitted with their building permit. It'll show 1-foot candle or less at the property line. We do have a reader here as well, but the electrician or whoever designs the lighting plan will provide that to us. The building on the street-facing side is more ornamental and decorative to light the front building, provide a little bit of security. The primary parking lot lighting is going to be behind the building, not facing County Road 21. The trees, we have a minimum tree replacement requirement of 2.5 caliper inches. That's measured at the 4-foot mark, so the diameter breast height needs to be 2.5 inches, so they're not going to be, 20-foot trees when they get planted, but they will be, a substantial 6 to 8 foot, relatively thick trunk tree that will grow over time. And then I'll let our water resource engineer, Stephanie, handle the stormwater question.
Thank you, Casey.
So for the stormwater pond, the one that's going to be constructed will be discharged into the existing wetland or the frog pond. So those are all county owned, and those will be reviewed and approved by the county in order to do so.
Commissioners, anything else?
Question, so I think maybe just to clear it all up for everyone, if someone could point to where the frog pond is versus where the retention pond, the new retention pond is. So the frog pond is there and it runs along the sidewalk, correct?
Yep,
Just
there's
to
actually maybe Stephanie want to handle this?
Yeah, that's correct. So what Casey is circling right now is an existing stormwater pond that was constructed with the West Avenue project quite a while ago. And that connects into the county system along 21 there.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments on this? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the commission on this agenda item? Required to ask 3 times, so is there someone, don't be shy. Is there one other person that would like to address the commission on this agenda item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion and a second to close the public hearing at 6:44 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing at 6:44 p.m., please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. And so we will now move to any final commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Nicholson.
No comments.
Commissioner Schmokel.
None from me.
Commissioner Yurko.
None, thank you.
Commissioner Fenstermacher.
I appreciate the difficultiness with the small site plus no on-street parking, so I really appreciate seeing the mirroring of what we already kind of have there and fitting it in there, so I'll be supporting this.
Commissioner Rook.
No comments.
All right. I want to echo my fellow commissioner comments, specifically Commissioner Fenstermacher. I don't have any additional questions, but I do appreciate the good questions, the attention to detail and known and unknown impacts that may be adverse, but certainly will be mitigated as we move forward with the project. I want to also thank the applicant for being here and for providing some clarity on some of the items. I will be supporting the proposal as presented this evening and through previous documents and summary provided by staff. So with that, I will entertain a motion and a second to approve a combined preliminary and final plat to be known as Prior Lake Revival, consisting of one approximate 1.06 acre parcel for commercial development and one outlot consisting of approximately 2.4 acres that will be reserved for future development. This request also includes a variance from the minimum floor area ratio, or FAR, requirements to construct a one-story commercial building in the Town Center TC zoning district. This is PID 25902-1260, 25902-1250, 25902-1210, and 25902-1220. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion does carry. We'll follow the same protocol for the second agenda item, public hearing, excuse me. This is PDEV 26-000007, 14091 Eagle Creek Avenue Northeast. This is a combined preliminary and final plat. Pulte Homes of Minnesota LLC is requesting approval of a combined preliminary and final plat for development to be known as Marlow Ridge. And with that, I will turn it over to staff.
Thank you again, Chair Fleming, members of the Planning Commission. So we have an application, we're processing a series of applications from Pulte Homes. So they've applied for approval of a 262 lot, low-density residential and medium-density residential subdivision to be known as Marlow Ridge. Tonight represents the first of multiple steps that we plan to move through. And this application is only to consider approval of the combined preliminary and final plat to subdivide what you see on your screen, 165-acre parcel, into 3 outlots. The 3 outlots would then each have their own review and approval as we navigate through the process in different phases. So this development, if approved by the Planning Commission and City Council, would not create any developable parcels. This is merely an outlot plat. So everything according to county records that you see highlighted on your screen as one parcel. It has one parcel identification number, even though it's on 2 different sides of Carriage Hills. So future steps, the Planning Commission will hold public hearings and make recommendations to the City Council on a number of items. It includes a preliminary plat for Outlot B, what will be Outlot B if approved, a preliminary planned unit development plan, a land use plan amendment to reconfigure the residential densities and commercial areas within this portion of property, and then a rezoning request so that our zoning map matches a conditional use or a land use plan amendment. There is an easement vacation for drainage and utilities, and the applicant has also completed an environmental assessment worksheet that will be reviewed at the City Council. So the proposed subdivision would take this 165-acre parcel and divide it into outlots A, B, and C. So an outlot in our city code, it is a platted piece of property, but an outlot is not intended for immediate development, and it is not developable. So if an outlot is approved and somebody comes in the next day and says, I want a building permit to build something on my outlot, that's not eligible until it goes through a final plat process. No developable residential lots are being proposed with this. What you see on the screen is what the developer is proposing. Create outlot A, create outlot B, and create outlot C. So our city code allows for a combination preliminary and final plat process due to the simplicity of an application. Now, future phases are not going to be simple. In future phases, we'll go through a preliminary step first, review, and then a final step at the end. This is fairly simple since they are only creating 3 outlots. So the resulting subdivision will contain no more than 5. It'll contain 3. The proposed subdivision is located in an area where streets and utilities are in place, which is the case here. The subdivision does not require dedication or construction of future streets because those will be done in future phases. And then the resulting lots do conform with zoning code requirements without variances in the 3 outlot form. So again, outlot A, that northern portion, it's roughly 22 acres. It's guided for business office park. That is the intent of a future comprehensive plan amendment, is to keep it guided as business office park and that property is to be retained by Fearling Family Limited Partnership. Outlot B is about 88 acres, that's blue. That's a mix of low-density and medium-density residential. Pulte Homes is planning to acquire Outlot B for residential development as a low and medium-density residential subdivision. Again, future phases, future applications are required for that approval. And then Outlot C is roughly 55 acres. That piece of property is right on Prior Lake. That is guided for low-density residential, and that property is not included in Pulte's purchase agreement. That property would retain with the Veerling Family Limited Partnership to be sold and developed at a later date. So again, just kind of to recap, Outlot A and Outlot C would retain with the Veerling family. Outlot B is what is proposed to be sold to Pulte for residential construction. A little bit of site information. There are wetlands that exist throughout the property. Any potential wetland impacts. Wetland delineations have been done. All of that is currently under review. Those will be addressed through future preliminary and final plat approval processes. We did add a condition to the report because the Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District has in their rules that conservation easements over wetland buffer areas need to be dedicated prior to a subdivision. This is technically a subdivision, even though it's not a development plan. They understand that it may not make sense to dedicate conservation easements over areas that could potentially be impacted. So they asked us to include a condition, which we did, that easement needs to be in place before any final approvals. Access to the site is available from Carriage Hills Parkway to the south, and there will be an extension completed by Pulte Homes, if all is approved, of Fountain Hills to the north. So Fountain Hills would extend from where it currently terminates to a new intersection at County Road 21. The comprehensive plan guides this land for business office park, low-density residential, medium-density residential, and Pulte has submitted an application to amend the land use plan to reallocate those uses within the subject property. Zoning, property is R1 low-density residential, C1 neighborhood commercial, R3 and C3 business park currently. We are processing an application for rezoning as well for future public hearing and planning commission consideration to match the zoning to the land use guidance. There are existing trails on County Road 21 and Carriage Hills Parkway, and then the development proposes additional sidewalks and trails throughout. Sanitary and sewer and water are available to serve this development, and then future phases of these outlots will be addressed through stormwater management as they come forward. So I did share, because I understood there would be some curiosity about what's actually being proposed. So I have a few slides to show what Pulte is proposing, but I would just like to be clear for the audience and the planning commissioners that you are not weighing in or reviewing the site plan this evening, but just to provide some context. So this is Fountain Hills to the north, County Road 21 is to the west. So Pulte would be completing a Fountain Hills extension to County Road 21. They would be constructing a new north-south collector street at Surrey. And then basically all of the property on the west side of the collector would be medium-density residential, and all of the property on the right side would be low-density residential. So there, in this development, I mentioned there's 262 units. So 96 of those are in 4 to 6 unit townhomes along Carriage Hills. And then they've got side-by-side twin homes proposed in this kind of yellow color on the west side. These would be geared towards a 55-plus target market. On the east side of Surrey is the blue lots are a 65-foot single-family detached home style, and also the purple are a 75-foot single-family detached. So these would be more of the move-up buyer, the second to third home when you need a little bit more space. A few, again, conceptual, but provided by the applicant for what they're considering to construct in this location. These are the townhomes, the 4 to 6 unit townhomes that would be located on the south side of development along Carriage Hills. This is a conceptual twin home elevation showing the side-by-side unit. And then the 65-foot single-family lots provided a 3-car garage and I believe a 2,500 to 3,200 square foot footprint, or not footprint, excuse me, square foot for the home. And then there's also a larger home model, 3,000 plus square foot, that would be proposed for their 75-foot lots on the far east side of the development. So city staff is recommending approval of the request for the combined preliminary and final plat, subject to a few conditions that are outlined in your report. We need just some clerical kind of housekeeping items on the signature block on the title page of the development agreement for the Vierling family and the city attorney, and then that one condition I mentioned about future phases requiring agreement with the watershed district about conservation easements prior to final plat. And with that, commissioners, I'd be happy to take any questions, and the applicant is in the audience as well if you have questions for them.
Thank you, Casey. I know that we're not supposed to direct our focus to things we're not supposed to direct our focus to, but I'm curious about, so when I look at these proposed numbers, so 96, 80, 47, and 39, so 176, maybe 240 or so potential occupants. Am I thinking about that? Or owners, homeowners?
Yeah, overall it's 262 individual units.
262.
Yep, 96 of them are attached in the 4 to 6 unit townhomes. 80 are attached in the side-by-sides, and the rest are single-family detached.
Okay. And at some point in time, we'll be provided with a proposed price point for these, different housing types?
Potentially, if the developer wants to share that during their Outlot B submittal.
Okay. Those are all my questions right now. Commissioner Nicholson, any questions for staff?
I'm going to follow Brian's lead. This may be jumping ahead, so feel free to cut me off. But you had called out no additional parkland. And so I was just curious if there's some additional color on that. Is that based upon, city guidelines, or is it just they determine there's not enough room and we're okay with that?
Yep. Good question, Commissioner. Thank you. So I believe the applicant is proposing maybe a smaller neighborhood park in the townhome or the twin home area of the development just to serve their restaurant or their residents. It would be a private amenity. But the city of Prior Lake is not pursuing additional parkland if there is other parks in the area to support it. So I know a big focus of our public works team and our city council over the last few years has been into park planning, which was the result of the Parks Master Plan and the result of the referendum vote last year, which did not pass. So that message to our city council is they need to figure out how to maintain the parks we have currently with the budget we have. Prior Lake has around 50 neighborhood parks, which is probably about 20 more than needed when you compare our total park inventory to a lot of other surrounding communities throughout the metro. So the focus is on figuring out ways to maintain our existing parks without adding new when possible.
Thank you. One additional question. Condition 2, you had called out, removes the city attorney plat examination signature. Is that standard? Is that typical?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's, City of Prior Lake doesn't have our city attorney review the plats. Some communities do. So on the title page of the plat, they had a city attorney signature block. We just asked that that be removed.
No more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Nicholson. Commissioner Schmokel?
I know this property's been up for sale for many years, and as my understanding that there had been some preliminary agreements or sales, but it washed out for whatever reason. Through those years, is there some learnings that kind of inform this approach now? Can we glean anything that helps us in the future?
Yeah, learnings on our end is there's been a lot of different developers. I have been here almost 15 years, and I don't think I can count how many meetings I have had on this property. You need a willing partner, which I believe the Vierlings found in Pulte. You know, if the applicant chooses to share some information, I think they can provide a history of how long they've worked with the family to get to this point. They've got a workable plan on their end that appears, you know, we're still in our review, but it appears to check a lot of boxes for the city as well. Other developments fell apart for, whatever reason, I don't want to guess.
Okay. I mean, does it help, maybe the question, maybe I'm kind of steering towards is this was a large piece of property. Does it help when properties are broken into smaller, more digestible chunks?
Yeah, Commissioner Schmokel, that's a great point. So for my understanding, for a lot of years when this property was for sale, it was kind of an all for one, like the entire 165 acres, and then there's another large chunk of property north of 42. A few years ago, this was split up kind of into the area that you see. There's, you know, the lake piece separate from the commercial and then the more traditional residential development, and that absolutely makes it easier to find a buyer and developer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmokel. Commissioner Yurko?
Yeah, just piggybacking on my fellow commissioner question here, the 262 units, can you give me a sense or us a sense of any examples of a similar scale around that 260 mark that we have around our city?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner. I'm trying to think when we worked with Pulte last, they did the Trillium Cove neighborhood, and that was around 220
Okay.
units, I believe. Summit Preserve, north of 42.
Yep.
M&I Homes did a nice project up there too. Those are all in the kind of the high 100s, low 200 range.
Okay. And then questions, I guess also the comment on the park, the Carriage Hills Park that's directly south of this development off Carriage Hills, that is a full-fledged city park, ball field, court, play, everything correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any indication as to the type of intersection that would be planned? I'm curious, with this going in and with the number of residents there, any indication for any stoplights that may be considered or intersection control along 42 at Carriage Hills or Fountain Hills Parkway, or Drive, excuse me? And then similar question around Surrey Lane, where Surrey Lane is going to connect to both Carriage on the south and Fountain on the north. Any indications that you can give us for what type of intersections we should expect?
Yeah, I believe I'd have to look at the plans. Surrey may have a turn lane already. Southbound, I'm not sure if there's one. Northbound, that would just be, if there's not, that would just be a full intersection, no signal. We have had conversations with Scott County on the development to the north for County Road 42. There would be no access changes on 42 as part of the Pulte proposal because they're only dealing with Outlot B, not Outlot A. And then the
21.
traffic study, Pulte had a traffic study completed that is currently being reviewed by Scott County staff, and that will help drive the intersection conversations. I don't know that day one intersection improvements are going to be required. Whatever the requirement is, we'll work with the developer as part of the development agreement to secure funding necessary. So they will be building whatever turn lanes in 21 need to happen that aren't already there. And then any future, whether that be a signal or a roundabout or whatever change,
Yeah.
we'll try and secure funding for that. But the traffic study will be a major component of our review of Outlot B, and you will see that when we bring that forward in the future.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yurko. Commissioner Finstemacher?
It's good to hear about the traffic study because I know I've driven through those intersections as it is already, and they're fun to say the least. So it's good to hear from that. That's coming down the line. So I have no other questions about this preliminary plat.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Rook?
Just a procedural question. Obviously, the action that's being asked of the commission is simply on this preliminary and final plot known as Marlow Ridge. No other action, correct?
Correct, just kind of what you see in front of you, the preliminary and final plat, if approved, or if recommended for approval by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council, would take what is currently a 165-acre parcel, and it would chop it up into 3 separate parcels that you see on your screen.
Thank you.
I have just one lingering question. Actually, it's a request, Casey. Could you just maybe very briefly describe for the, our guests here tonight and anybody that might be viewing, just describe the process that we would undergo to amend the land use plan to reallocate commercial and residential uses, just so folks have a sense of what that is. It's a very thorough process, but I'm feeling like I want you all to have a sense of that before we get into that.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Yep. So the land use plan requires a notification to adjacent and affected jurisdictions. So that application window it's a 60-day review and comment period. So when Pulte originally submitted their application, we got that out the door. So we sent it to 16 different groups. Some of them reply right away with no comments. Some of them may take the full 60 days and not reply. So it adds time. There's a public hearing process involved with that. So everybody who's here this evening who received a notice, they will receive a notice when the preliminary PUD, it'll likely be multiple requests on one meeting, but the preliminary PUD, the preliminary plat, the comp plan amendment, the rezoning, any easement vacations, they all require a public hearing. So notice will be sent, and we'll hold another similar hearing like this, but it'll be much more in depth on actual development plans.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, are there any lingering questions that we have for staff? Okay, at this point in time, then I would like to invite representative or representatives from Pulte to approach the podium and then share your thoughts with us, please. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Hoyer, Pulte Homes, 1650 West 82nd Street, Suite 300, Bloomington, Minnesota, 55431. It's good to be here. It's been about, 3 to 5 years since I was before you last. At the risk of getting too deeply into the future, I know that there's some questions, so let me try to answer a couple of the questions I heard here. So what are our main goals here? Well, first of all, we've been trying to buy the property for 11 years, so it's been a long time. The property is what we consider to be an infill, which means it's pretty much developed all around it. There's not a ton of flexibility in what we can do from the standpoint of the transportation has been set up already. Each end of Fountain Hills Lane has been set. We know exactly where we need to go with both of those. We know where the north-south collector road has to go as well. Carriage Hills Parkway has been built. The intersections have been kind of predetermined. So from that standpoint, a lot of this is kind of fixed in terms of the infrastructure and the layout of the neighborhood. What we're proposing matches very well with the city's comprehensive plans, so the density really kind of falls right in line too. And larger picture, and now I'm finally going to answer some of your questions here. Our goal was life cycle housing, which means the whole cycle from young to old on one neighborhood. So the townhomes are really aimed at first-time home buyers. Oftentimes they're singles, couple with no kids. Average sales price that we expect for the townhomes would be about $410,000. The next one would be the blue ones in the map here. Those would be the single-family homes. They're fairly large homes. Average one would be $675,000. The next one is the purple homes. I would consider those luxury single-family homes, and the average price we expect there is about $825,000. And finally, the one we're probably the most excited about because we see a lot of demand for this across the Twin Cities is for empty nesters. The twin homes are really single-level homes, so everything about these homes are designed for people 55 and older. There's more light in the homes, there's wider doorways for if you have problems with walkers, things like that. A lot of, well, they actually Dell Homes, if you're familiar with Del Webb, Sun City, Anthem, anywhere across the country that has those words, they're Del Webb homes, which are really focused on the 55 and older. So average price that we expect for those homes is about $500,000. And I should point out that the Homeowners Association is really a big part of the twin homes. Folks that buy into this kind of neighborhood with the twin homes really hope to have the snow removal and the mowing of the lawns taken care of by the HOA so that they no longer have to do that. So that's really a big part of it. We are proposing some minor private amenities for the Twin Home neighborhood because, again, the 55 and older demographic really likes to be social, so they like to have little gathering spots there. And many of them are retired, too. I think I'll stop there. That was at the risk of maybe going into too much detail. I will prepare a presentation that I hope will answer all your questions when we have our actual project before you in the future, but I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Commissioner Rook, any questions? Commissioner Yarko?
For the twin homes, thanks for the explanation there. You said they're single level. Are they slab on grade single level, or does it actually have a basement associated to it?
Some of each. There's some fairly steep slopes along the wetlands, so some of those will have basements.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmoker?
No, I guess I'm just absorbing this, but as I think, do you have any special plans for the wetlands to look more aesthetically pleasing or be part of the view?
By chance, yes. By that I mean the Watershed District approached us and they would like to do a collaborative project with the wetland. Right now it's not very pretty, but maybe more importantly, something I was not aware of is they told me that downstream Pike Lake has pretty poor water quality. And a lot of the cause of that is a lot of nutrients that have accumulated over the many, many decades that are in this wetland, and they get washed downstream into Pike Lake rather easily. So what the Watershed District has asked us to do is to raise the water level, which will prevent many of those nutrients from washing downstream into Pike Lake. So it will actually look better, the wetland, and also greatly improve the water quality downstream in Pike Lake.
I know I would be remiss if I didn't share some Prior Lakers feeling that we'd love to see cows there, even if they were cement cows.
I've seen the cows bathing in the wetland many times over the years.
Kind of an iconic thing here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nicholson, any questions, comments? Anything else you'd like us to know?
No.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I'll entertain a motion and a second to commence opening of the public hearing at 7:13 p.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion in 3 seconds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the public hearing is now open. If there's someone in the viewing audience that would like to approach the podium and pose questions for either the commission or the applicant, please feel free to step up.
Hello, Evan Shattuck, 4841 Beach Street Northeast, Prior Lake. If you were involved with Trillium Cove, it actually looks pretty nice. We live next to Lot C and go for walks in both directions and drive both ways to go in and out of the neighborhood. And so Trillium Cove is an area we walk to quite a bit. Quick comments first and then my question, but there haven't been cows in Outlot A or B for years, or minimal for years. I've helped collect them out of the lake, even from swimming past our place. A young cow was swimming by, and the older one came by and actually got it to turn around and go back. Also, I've lived here 40 years. The ducks and the geese at the pond are already beautiful, though, and they'll miss anything that changes, so I'm glad the water level goes up. You kind of addressed that this isn't a feedback time. And when would there be a feedback? If my main question would be looking at like the preliminary thing, there's Pike Lake Trail comes down on the Carriage Hills Parkway, and then 2 or 3 new intersections would be in there. And is there where do we ever ask questions to try to influence that? Like one good roundabout be put in rather than 3 new intersections? And please drive the neighborhood and start thinking about going over the hill past Pike Lake Trail, and you're starting to go down, and all of a sudden there's going to be, you know, more and more cars through the, you know, the construction time. When would we be able to ask or find out about roundabouts?
Thank you for the question. So the traffic study will be reviewed as part, so we've got all of the plan submittals, they're all under review, and then those will all be presented potentially in May, potentially in June. We'll send
So
it
relatively
out.
soon.
Yeah.
Would we be getting, there's no Prior Lake newspaper anymore, would we be getting more things in the mail?
You'll be getting them in the mail, yes.
Okay.
So the way that would work is we would, you know, take comments at the preliminary plat stage. There will be a preliminary plat and a preliminary planned unit development plan. So if you want, you know, say you make a comment to say, I think that should be a roundabout, Planning Commission can give direction to look into that. The traffic study will either support that or it won't, but it would be addressed. And then if there's any changes to the plan, say we're going from a full intersection to a roundabout, those changes would be made before they bring in their final plat and their final planned unit development plan.
Okay. Well, I hope they're seriously looked at. You know, more of my travel goes through the roundabout of Trillium Cove, and that's rather pleasant, and, you know, there's a lot of foot traffic too. And it's, how do you handle pedestrians crossing as we do our walks? You wind up seeing more pedestrians than you do cars over at the Trillium Cove one. So you just slow the cars down, get the people to walk by, things like that. And the housing density here, is that kind of a ratio like was done at Trillium Cove?
Yes, it would. So the properties west of the north-south collector would be, the idea, the request is to guide those as medium-density residential. So that's 4 units per acre to 7.9 units per acre. The properties on the east side would be our low-density, so that would be less than 4 units per acre.
But in general, yeah.
In general,
And,
yep.
Yeah,
yep.
the Trillium Cove's been nice. It's so, you know, I'm just asking in general terms, because I know that's not the thing. Okay, thank you. Oh, one other comment is, I'd assume Outlot C has a lot of green acres, easements, or assessments outstanding, and that'll be the harder one to sell, mainly because that's where the sewer line went through about 40 years ago. So,
Thank you.
Julie Frank, 4419 Coachman Lane Northeast, Prior Lake. Mine is probably more comments than questions, and it's number one is I want to thank Pulte for being very transparent. Love seeing the potential diagram. For the City Council, there's a couple things that I just would like you guys to consider as we think about this going forward, and I would say that for future meetings, probably be prepared with this information, because as we get to more of those types of drawings, I think that more questions will come. So my one thing is, I would just say that there may be some concern. That's a lot of high-density housing in a small area, and the park is directly across the street of Carriage Lane. If you have not been on Carriage Hills Drive, it is very busy, it's windy, and it's hilly. And so there's a lot of traffic walking there. I honestly would be fearful for small children and families trying to cross to get to the park that's directly across the street. That is not an easy, it's not an easy place to cross. So I would just, there's a lot of land over there. I don't know, to me it seems that if you're thinking of multi-generations, that might be a place where you might want to be able to have a park on that side of the street, because crossing the street is not an easy thing to do. I walk pets very often, and it's very difficult to cross the street there. If anyone lives in that neighborhood, you may agree with that. The other thing is, I am very familiar with the Del Webb, very, very familiar. One of the luxuries of Del Webb is not just the great housing structure, but it's the amenities in the area. And you are right, it's a very social community, it's a very active community. And so I would just want to make sure that the city considers bike paths, walking paths, people that are in an older age group That's not a long distance to walk, and you're going to want to make sure that people have a lot of opportunity to get their bike out, to walk and be active, and to have places that they can meet and congregate and be social, because that is probably the biggest benefit of the Del Webb. The actual housing structures of Del Webb is a nicety, but it's really the community that creates Del Webb. And then the other thing I would just ask is the future mailing timeline on these. I feel like I got this pretty close. If I were on vacation for a while or busy, I don't know that I would have time to actually make sure that I was in town for this meeting. I think that these are pretty key important meetings for future residents and for current residents. So I would ask that maybe think about backing those up and maybe doing 2 mailings, or for sure getting it out in time so people can get it on their calendars. This one seemed a little tight for me. I travel a lot for work, so so I think those were my things. They're not necessarily questions. I think the only question that I would have for next time is, if we are going to propose something to this density, I would like the city to be able to come informed of what other areas within our communities have that many residents living in that tight of a space. And then I'd also like to see some type of ratio of what is the parkland within to 1 mile, half a mile, 1 mile, 3 mile radius of that, so that we can get an understanding of how this is going to impact the community as a whole and where will people go and walk. Obviously, we have great weather here, but it's only so many months of the year. But even the winter, we like to get out, we like to be active. I see a lot of people with winter biking, and so biking and walking is a key part of being a Minnesotan. And so I would want to make sure that we have really good opportunities for people to partake in that. But once again, I'm very appreciative of you. You didn't have to be as transparent as you were, so it helps us as people in the community understand what you're thinking. Hopefully we've given you some vision of what we're concerned about, not necessarily so much as me as a homeowner, but just maybe more for the people that would potentially moving into the subdivision and the community at large. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for the thoughtful comments and considerations. Who else would like to address the commission?
Hello, Emily Gores. I live at 14699 Landau Lane, Northeast. Been in the area for over 20 years. I lived in Fountain Hills and moved up the hill 18 years ago. Live very close to Outlot C, back up to that. My question, and I think it's timely now, seeing as though the vote ahead is to enable, or what would enable, Fountain Hills to connect to 21. Very happy to hear that you guys are questioning what the traffic assessments and what that impact would be. Just wanted to get it on the record as a concern for us that live close to the 42-21 intersection and how dangerous that intersection is. Just as you consider this, we certainly don't want to increase the need for our emergency services in the area. Unfortunately, hearing sirens is a pretty common thing in the evenings, and just that intersection being so close to the 2142 intersection, knowing that this then puts the demand on that traffic study, and you'll need to do something. It's too close to 21 and 42 to have a stoplight at that intersection, most likely. But just in terms of what future planning might look like in terms of left turn lane into Fountain Hills from southbound 21, and what options for turning left from 21 onto from Fountain Hills onto southbound 21. So just know that that will likely force that to be an issue, and likely not something that has putting our community safety first and foremost. So just as you guys are making your decisions and wanting to make sure that we in the neighborhood know how slowly and carefully we drive at that intersection, that changing that dynamic around there just should be made with absolute caution and concern and for safety for our community members. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, staff. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. I think it is really easy to jump ahead, but for the record, remind me that my name is Daniel Foster. I'm at 4402 Fox Hunt Court in Prior Lake, and I live, my backyard is the farm. I've known the Veerling family for the 31 years I've lived there. Great family, great neighborhood. I guess I would first start by saying I appreciate the extent and the effort by which you have outlined your path going forward for this particular project. And I worked 35 years for the Metropolitan Airports Commission at MSP. I am very familiar with the processes that you all have to go through to get these things done. And so I can appreciate both the time you're taking to do it, the candid and transparent approach by Pulte and others. And so look very much forward to working with you and listening to you work through this whole process. I do want to share and echo some of the comments about the traffic and the density, however. Carriage Hills Parkway runs right behind my house. I knew it was going to be there when I moved there. And I always knew that there would be something built on the other side of the street, especially as I got to know the Veerling family quite well. And you are right, they were trying to sell the whole thing to one buyer, and that page has turned, it seems. But excited about the opportunity to see the growth as is proposed, but I would ask you to be very conscious of the density of this, because the roadways in the neighborhood, as others have pointed out, are very busy. If the police chief were in the room today, I would ask him what his speed enforcement strategy would be for our community, because Carriage Hills Parkway is very dangerous for those attempting to cross. The first month that the parkway was put in, there's a crosswalk, as someone else has mentioned, right there at Coachman. I watched a dog get run over and killed the very first week. So it's gotten a lot busier since the parkway was connected up to the water tower, up by the park there, which is great news for a lot of people in the area when it happened, because it made access to get to the Sandpoint Beach, and also added a lot of traffic, especially boat and trailer traffic, getting to the launch. So appreciate your diligence on looking at the traffic. Trying to turn left toward town off of the parkway to the south, you don't do it. You can't do it. It's too dangerous. And so that forces a lot of traffic through the neighborhood to get to the light at the school. So again, appreciate your diligence on looking at the density of the proposal. I think you can anticipate some of the homeowners, if they're not here tonight, that are a little bit farther to the west on Carriage Hills, to raise questions about the townhouses along on the other side of the parkway. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity, and we'll look forward to hearing from folks in the future.
Thank you, Dan. Who else would like to address the Planning Commission?
Hi, I'm Dawn Hanover. I am at 14408 Pike Lake Trail. It looks like the development will be right behind my house. It's exciting, scary. As an entrepreneur, I'm excited for the business office park. That sounds amazing. I have a question real quick, because I'm not familiar with this. What does the low density and medium density, what does that mean? But also I wanted to echo what my neighbors have said regarding safety, Carriage Hills. It looks like in the previous slide that everything dumps onto Carriage Hills. That's very concerning. We walk dogs, there's kids and games at the park there all the time. Traffic's lined up or on the side street. For the kids' baseball games, it's very busy, especially with kids. So something to be concerned about. Also, I don't see any area where it goes onto Pike Lake, which I question. Is that going to really be true? Because that seems like that would be another access, and if so, that would probably be right by my house. Anyway, that's, I know, future, but just little things that have noted there. Also, with the 262 homes, I just did a calculation of even with 4 people in a home average, that would bring 1,040 some people to the area. So they will have cars and dogs, and we're going to need some kind of recreation for them to think about, something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Could someone from staff sort of provide down with distinctions between densities, low, medium, and high?
Yep, so the low, it's really just the amount of units per acre. So a low-density development would be 2.5 to 4 units per acre. Most of the ones that we see in Prior Lake are kind of in that upper 3.6 range. And then a medium density would be a 4 to 7.9 units an acre. So that's where, if you're going to have a development that's got townhomes or even some of the newer developments that are the detached villas, the smaller single level homes, a lot of those are a medium density residential classification.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jake Isaacson, 14426 Pike Lake Trail Northeast. I share a lot of concerns that others have brought up around the traffic on Carriage Hills and also Pike Lake Trail Northeast. My neighbor who just spoke, myself, and 2 other properties are the only 4 houses on Pike Lake Trail. Pike Lake Trail is extremely busy. If you're familiar with it, there's the Holiday gas station and then Carriage Hills. It comes up a hill, and the amount of traffic and the speed of vehicles is pretty great. So that's my biggest concern. And then also, it seems like with this property being for sale for a decade, this seems like a pretty big favor to the Verling family. You know, that property's been for sale for a long time for an extreme amount of money. And it just seems like if they would have priced it right, they could sell all 3 combined. So it just seems like a pretty big favor to them. And then I would also love some additional detail on Trillium Cove and the amount of acreage there compared to, and how many units were built in Trillium Cove versus Plot B here, the acreage compared to the units. And thanks for your time.
Thanks. Thank you. Who else would like to approach and address the commission?
Hi, Matthew and Theodore Nelson, 14448 Pike Lake Trail. We did not intend to speak today, but I live next door to these 2, and so we're just doing it in solidarity with them and echoing their message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jamie Pockert, 14525 Surrey Lane. Dan followed me in tonight, so he took the neighborhood just like I do, because you know Carriage Hills is a nightmare, especially in the summertime. The one thing about Carriage Hills is I moved to that neighborhood 11 years ago. That road was closed because they were doing whatever to it. Realtor said it's going to be busy. The police put the little speed limit thing out there. One guy went by at 98 miles an hour twice. So that road from Eagle Creek all the way up to Surrey Lane is a drag strip. Past that, same thing. We got e-bikes, we got the pedal bikes, we got tons of kids on that road every day. Now this is an older neighborhood, like Dan said, he's lived in there for 30 plus years. I just moved in 11 years ago. And it's just the amount of people that are, it's just changing over. All the people are, 55 plus, and they're going to be moving out, and we're going to get all new. There's going to be more kids in this neighborhood in 10 years. My intention is to be out of this neighborhood in 7, because I don't want to be part of this development coming in. The other thing too is we were talking about the wetland that's there. Now, there is a wetland on Carriage Hills. Is that not considered? Casey, that's for you. Is that not considered wetland? Because it does hold water. It's held water for the 11 years that I've been there, which would put that right in, probably right in the middle of those townhomes.
Yeah, so the wetland that you see on here is the delineated boundary of the wetland. There are other wetlands on this property. There's wetlands on the north side and wetlands throughout here. This is just the conceptual site plan for what they're proposing. So there would be wetland impacts with any of the phases of any of these outlot developments. So the developers would have the option to mitigate or, pay into a credit system, or, there's other options that they would explore with our TEP panel.
So they can move the wetland.
They can move the wetland, they can fill the wetland if they replace at a 2-to-1 ratio with credit system.
Okay.
It depends on the quality of the wetland, it depends on how big the wetland is, so, it would not make sense in this case to fill in the large wetland pond, but if they run into smaller wetlands here and there throughout the development, a lot of times it's easier, and then the money goes into a bank, a credit to a larger, more productive wetland somewhere else in the region.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm required to ask 3 times. Is there anyone in the viewing audience that would like to approach? Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion at 7:38 p.m. to close the public hearing on this agenda item. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have 2 motions. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. So we'll start with Commissioner comments. Commissioner Rook?
I think a comment, obviously my initial question was around procedurally, the action that's being asked for today. What we're hearing is, I think, a lot of important comments from not only residents and neighbors, but just asking for diligence and proper notification. So while I plan to support the recommendation, I would ask that obviously staff hear what their neighbors are telling them, and hopefully we can find pathways and solutions that come back to this commission for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Rook. Commissioner Fenstermacher?
Just want to say I really appreciate all the neighborhood comments, because that's something we really need to hear as we go through this process, and I really do appreciate hearing more of those comments as we keep going through this. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Yurko?
Just echoing my partners up here.
Commissioner Schmokel?
I agree too. I'm glad you were here. I'm glad to hear that, because I don't want to rely on my own personal experience on Carriage Hills. It's nice to hear other people too.
Commissioner Nicholson?
I would echo previous comments.
Great. I too will add my echo. I think the process has been thoughtful and deliberative, and I want to assure everyone who's here tonight, even if you didn't address us with your questions or comments, that it'll continue to be deliberative and very, very thoughtful as we move through the process. I moved here in 2002, and my realtor was showing me a lot in the wilds. We drove by the Veerling property, and I said, well, why can't I move there? And he said, it's not for sale. And then when I became involved with city work and city business, that has been, at least in my mind, one of the essential questions, planning questions probably, in the 7-county metro area is the Veerling property, what's happening with the Veerling property. And so it warms my heart to know that we are moving forward, and moving forward with such thoughtfulness and deliberation. So I'm really happy about that. So right now I will entertain a motion and a second on the second agenda item. This is PDEV 26-000007, 1409 Eagle Creek Avenue Northeast, combined preliminary and final plat. Pulte Homes of Minnesota LLC is requesting approval of a combined preliminary and final plat for development to be known as Marlow Ridge. This specific item is to consider a request that the existing approximate 165-acre parcel be subdivided into 3 outlets, those being Outlet A, Outlet B, and Outlet C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. Back over to staff. I see we have no old business, no new business. Is that correct?
No new business.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion and a second to close the meeting to adjourn at 7:42 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.